Hey guys, welcome to the UpNext podcast, where we are interviewing teen entrepreneurs that are making it big time in the startup world. We are asking the questions we know you want to hear. UpNext is an app made for teens where anyone can join or build a real life startup. So today our guest is Ryan Mcgee, age 22, from the UK. He is the co-founder of HouseHack, a talent accelerator and consultancy for Gen Z, also providing practical innovation opportunities for small businesses as well as skill development for students and graduates and young people through their innovation challenges. Ryan has also just finished a podcast called The 2%, which is all about living life as your best self, and is currently working on a new podcast that has to do with HouseHack called the HouseHack Podcast. Ryan pretty much started, going through all of this at the age of 18. Ryan, is there anything I missed? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Graduate as well from Loughborough University here in the UK. So just recently finished off that last 4-year chapter of my life before diving into business and self-employment. Yeah.
How did you find yourself creating such a business? What sparked the idea?
I guess you never know, right? That's the crazy thing with that question. But it was something that happened very organically for us because it was started in the first wave of the COVID pandemic. And so it was just me and my flatmate and now co-founder in Loughborough knocking about, thinking about what we can basically fill our time with. And we started to create these hackathon events for, at the time, just our friends and local businesses. And that was really the spark. That was the kind of start of the entire process that is now the business.
Who do you consider your first mentor? What did they help you go through?
I think mentorship is something that you don't necessarily realize until you have it. You might have a mentor type relationship with your friends or your family or your youth leader or your teacher. And so there's certainly people in a school environment where I think back that they had a mentorship type relationship with me. One of my early teachers, Mr. Kelly, my form tutor, very supportive of me in school and kind of driving that through in the school side. In business, there is a definite shout out for Mike Midgley, who is one of our current mentors with HouseHack. We've been chatting with Mike really since November and really helped us progress the business forward. So that in a business sense has been great for us. But it's so interesting about what makes a good mentor. And I think it's somebody that really challenges you and keeps you accountable to what you're doing and what that final vision is for you.
How much time did it take for you to build the product that you launched?
So the kind of classic thing for me as a student and now as a graduate, as a person, is that I'm kind of the perfectionist type. So my brain wants to solve the entire problem before I even start it. And so it was a real challenge. And my co-founder, Charlie, really brings me along out of that mindset to go, no, we're starting, we're doing our pathetic best. We're getting it started from 0 to 1 first. And so the first version of our service of the Innovation Challenge in April last year, probably took an hour to create, maybe 2 hours, just knocking up a couple of assets on Canva, just having a chat about what the format, the agenda, deciding where to host it, making quick, easy decisions. And then there you go, we've got a service. And then it's just a case of iterating and improving on that first version. And yeah, the leaps and bounds compared to where we were at the time over the past 12 months have been crazy. So that kind of perfectionist mindset is something that I've definitely had to try and move away from.
How much money was needed to build your first version?
I'm quite open about the fact that we've only put £500 each into the business across the last 12 months. We've been profitable and reinvesting ourselves since then. But the answer to that question very much depends on what business, what service, what product you're trying to create, right? So if you're trying to create something that's got a massive end game, you're trying to invest a lot of money into a product, then you can't necessarily do that with £100, £500. But the questions you need to ask yourselves within the constraints of the resources that you do have is, well, what's the next best thing then? because your constraint is the resource, whether it's your time or the money available. So you have to think, well, what questions can I answer that this is a good idea with that amount of resource available? What can you do instead of your end game thing? Because you can't do that because you haven't got the funding. And I think for business people, entrepreneurs, young people especially, it's always the push to try and have money as the answer. But I would challenge that to try and think about how you can find the answers within the resource constraints that you do have. So yeah, it's a really tough conversation.
How did you get those first users, customers to come aboard? What was that like?
I always used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. And that was his kind of motto. And I think that's very true in business. And the answer to your question there is we just asked. So the first version for us was a Saturday event. I think it was 5 hours long. There were 9 students there and there were 3 businesses there. And it was a very small event. But all we did was just create a message to DM and DM'd loads of people saying, hey, we've got this idea. This is what it's about. Do you want to come along? It might be good fun. You have a good time developing your skills and you'll be working on a real business. How does that sound? And so, yeah, 9 people was the attendees for that first event. So definitely just asking is a great tip.
Could you name one advantage and one disadvantage of being such a young entrepreneur?
Advantage and huge leverage over pretty much everything, right? So we're growing in terms of our age, our economic power, our time advantage over the rest of the generations is massive. So think about how many different careers, how many lifetimes that we all have ahead of us. And that kind of perspective is quite mind-boggling. So that perspective, living day to day, I know now that because I've started a business, even if we end up failing, as a lot of startups do, I've got so much that I've learned to reapply and start trying again. Or if I'm going into the workplace in the future, if I decide to do that in 5 years' time, whatever, I can become more of an intrapreneur and learn different skills and apply that differently, right? So all of that aside, you combine that with the attitudes and digital nativity in terms of technology, and you start having a real case for really driving forward the change that you want to see as a young person in the future of the workforce, the world. So yeah, that's the kind of call to action I would say, is that really see that everything that you do have can be and is an advantage, and your unique set of skills are valued and you can make something from that.
What is one time you experienced a real fail moment? Just, everything went wrong. Did you fix it? Were you able to? Did you learn from it? What happened?
The biggest lesson, perhaps not mistake, I think we personally overcame it quite quickly, is not sharing your idea or not sharing your thing. Now, there's a slight caveat to that around intellectual property, depending on the designs that you might be working on. But 9 times out of 10, you should be sharing, shouting, talking about your idea to your friends, your family, your potential customers, people who can give you feedback to then have you inform a decision to go, yes, I can continue this. No, I shouldn't do this. Or maybe I should change what I'm doing to, iterate it, improve it, make it a better version of what it is now. And there was a very maybe 2-month period, around about that at the beginning of our journey, where we were quite tight in terms of what we would share with the world and what we would share with our potential customers. And it came to that point where we decided, if we're going to make this a real business, if we're going to grow, we need to share our ideas and put them out into the world.
What are 3 traits that you look for in a co-founder, business partner type of person?
It happened again, organically for us. We were friends for 4 years before we started a business together, myself and Charlie. And I think that is a definite thought to take forward for people. So definitely there are traits to match to people that you could go into business with, but also think about how you can create organic situations for yourself to meet people who are like-minded, who have complementary skill sets, who have similar passions, similar energies. And all of that will come together to, when you discuss your ideas, it will start to click and form an organic relationship that can be something like a business relationship. Because although, yes, Charlie and I are friends still, we're also business partners now. So there's a different dynamic to our friendship and our relationship together. So the kind of traits themselves I'd isolate. I think it's important to have that complementary skill set and that accountability between one another. So you need that transparency too to get to that accountability. I think also a sense of leadership is very, very important, whether you're leading others or you're leading one another as a pairing, or if there are more than two of you as a team, because you have to basically believe in yourself and your idea to the end of it. And actually, if you don't do that, no one else will do that for you. So that sense of leadership and belief is essential as well. Advantage and disadvantage. Oh, so I guess the disadvantage, maybe starting with that, is the kind of self-perception. And it's definitely something that I think about and kind of struggle with, I would say too, of, oh, I'm only 22, or who am I to be doing this? That kind of imposter syndrome, that self-talk in the back of your head, thinking, well, someone else might have done this before or whatever. But I mentioned previously that belief is super important to counteract that. The advantage I think I'd bring is that exactly the same with being young, is that actually people want to help you, and really driving that home. Actual clients, anyone really, if you have conversations in an open and honest way about who you are, what you're building, why your thing is good and valuable, you will get to a place where you can start to get that snowball effect within your business or your personal brand or whatever it is for you. So the kind of youth aspect does play positively in that way, because people do want to help. And I think inherently, 8 out of 10 people will be more open to helping you. It's then your job to tell them how they can help you as much as anything.
What is a tech tool that you just can't go without? Maybe an app or a website, something that you always use?
So HouseHack's a virtual first business. So we have a massive and kind of varied tech stack. I think the one thing is probably a kind of dual tools. I'm going to kind of cheat that question slightly. So Google Calendar from our G Suite, and link into that Calendly. So Calendly is an automated booking tool and runs my diary, runs my life, whether that's booking podcasts like this, booking our own podcast, booking my own time in with friends, with other people, with clients, with everyone. It runs through my diary and my Calendly. So yeah, that's probably what I can't do without the most. But the efficiency gains, the time saving, definitely a massive advocate for both of those.
Yeah.
Which entrepreneurs inspire you the most these days? Who do you have your eye on?
I am super inspired by a lot of entrepreneurs, but also a lot of people in business, because they have more of an entrepreneurial approach. So they use entrepreneurial tendencies or traits in their organizations. So there is one managing director of an organization called Social Chain, Katie Leeson, fantastic voice for mental health in the workplace, for kind of future of work. In terms of entrepreneurs, I have been a massive admirer of Tim Ferriss for a long time. I read 4 Hour Work Week maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, and have kind of kept reading it and kept going back to it. And I think that's how I know I'm inspired, is when I go back to people's content, people's output, whether it's a book or a video, multiple times. So there's a couple that I look up to there.
Great.
Which trait of yours do you feel is your weakest and you need to outsource it somehow with a coworker or maybe a tech platform?
The misconception for entrepreneurs is to try and become a massive generalist across everything, which I'm an advocate for. I'm a generalist myself. But you're right in that you do need to outsource those things that are weaker or that you don't enjoy so much, to give you more time, more headspace to really go deeper on the things that you're really good at, and to then make your business, your offer, more unique. So for me, part of that is having an accountant close to the business. So our accountant, Gareth, is fantastic, and helping me see the finances as I need to be seeing them is great, not just to keep us accountable, but to keep us in the kind of legal side of the finances. whilst I'm educating and re-educating and upskilling myself as much as I can on the finance side of the business. Because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you have to be on top of your finances. Don't get me wrong there. But yeah, that's kind of one thing that I need to spend more time on, and I do spend a lot of time learning. But also I know it's something that I need to ask for help in the right ways, such as using our accountant to the best effect.
Yeah. Where would you tell me to use this money, if at all?
It's a great question, because it's a very restricting thought experiment, right? Because £100 is nothing. And I think there's two ways I'd answer that question. You should either use it to invest in yourself entirely, or you should use it to test the customer base that you're looking to try and sell to then turn that £100 into more money by creating your first version of your product or service to then sell to that group based on your feedback. But £100 being £100, I think the way I would do it and the way I spend that kind of low cash is to invest in yourself. So whether that's memberships to things like Spotify to help me to relax, get in touch with music, to actually make sure that I kind of get out the house, kind of getting on my walks, getting the music in. Those things help grow the business as well, just because I'm invested in myself. And so I think when you're looking at amounts like £100, don't just always think about how you use that to grow your business, to get more profit, to grow the business. Actually think also, how can you use that money to invest in yourself? So it might be a course, it might be bits of software like we mentioned. There's a lot of different ways to invest that money, but I think about it in terms of investing in yourself. Yeah.
How important do you feel it is for young entrepreneurs to think about social change when creating a business?
It's massive. I think the most successful businesses of the next 10, 20 plus years will be those that have integrated business models with regards to social change, social impact, and go beyond what we've seen as a traditional model of just purely focusing on profit and finances and returns for shareholders. What we've really seen over the last 5, but maybe 10, 15 years as a transition, as that move away from that towards corporate social responsibility, as it was first called, kind of CSR, but now we're really seeing a shift towards integration in terms of how a business interacts with the society around it. So for us, we don't just get people jobs through the recruitment side of HouseHack. We help develop people's skills, which has a lasting impact across somebody's year, somebody's life, to then maybe help get people jobs elsewhere that HouseHack doesn't necessarily benefit from directly, but it's that social impact that's built into our business model that is helping us to stand out. So I would encourage all entrepreneurs, people with ideas, to think about how does your idea, your business, give back to society around it? What different groups do you benefit? And then you'll be more successful in the longer term, I think.
If you could have any superpower in the world, what would you pick?
I always say running fast to this one, because I used to think I was Dash from The Incredibles growing up. So, like small blonde kid. So yeah, I'll stick with that, I think.
Well, Ryan, it was great getting to know you a bit and what you do, and I can't wait to see what you guys do next.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say, if you love what's going on, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give a like, turn on your notifications, comment, do all that good stuff. We are uploading so much content all the time, so I will see you guys soon.